on behalf of AICT and Ministry of Education's Innovation Cell, I, Yogesh Brahmankar, welcome all of you to celebrate this Intellectual Property Festival and World Creativity and Innovation Day. We have Honorable Chairman AICT, Dr. T.G. Sitaram sir, Honorable Vice Chairman AICT, and Chief Innovation Officer, Ministry of Education's Innovation Cell, Dr. Abhay Jere. We have Dr. Unnat Pandit, Control General of Patents of Government of India. We have Dr. Sacha Vincent from WIPO, who is Head of Section, Economics and Statistics Division and Co-Editor for Global Innovation Index. I welcome all the dignitaries. I welcome all the heads of the institutions, Vice Chancellors, Deans, Directors for this celebration of World Creativity and Innovation Day. Once again, welcome all of you. Sir, we have all the IIC institutions, faculty and researchers joined on YouTube and WebEx as well. And we are celebrating this as a MIC-driven activity as a part of IIC calendar activities. More than 10,000 IICs, institution innovation councils will be involved with minimum 100 students and faculty members and researchers involved in these workshops. It's a week-long program, sir, where 6 days we are having this Intellectual Property Festival, where experts from across India are going to conduct master classes on different topics related to intellectual property, like copyrights, trademarks, because only patents is something which is popular, but we are going beyond that. Also celebrating Intellectual Property Day on 26th. This year's WIPO's theme is actually music. So Feel the Beat of IP is the theme, and that's why we thought of inviting Dr. Sacha Vincent also. So I also once again welcome Dr. Sacha from WIPO here. With this, as Dr. Unnat Pandit has some other program, we'll have a small change in program. I invite Dr. Unnat Pandit, Control General of Patents, Government of India, to address the gathering, please.
Today, the new dimension is going to begin. This is not just the World IP Week celebration which is going to begin. We all need to work towards creating a business that really bring the IP-driven solutions. We need to learn that how much of an intellectual property we have created simply in the Smart India Hackathon, and not going into the various projects which students are creating. How many of those IP we have protected? That's where we need to bring the harmony in our operations. That's where we need to feel each and every bit of our IP creation and protection. That would be the real.
My dear friend, Professor Unnat Pandit, who has supported us in every possible way in this journey, guiding us formally and informally. Then we're also thankful to Dr. Sacha from WIPO for joining us. I think it's a beginning or initiation of a new relationship between WIPO and AICT, and I hope that this relationship is taken forward and it blossoms as we move forward. My innovation team here and my AICT colleagues. First, I would really like to congratulate all of you for organizing this initiative on World's Creativity and Innovation Day. Usually, I think we are celebrating it for the first time in a sense. Before that, we used to celebrate on 15th of October, which is Abdul Kalam's, our earlier president, former President APJ Abdul Kalam's day as an innovation day also. So we are very happy to actually celebrate this World IP and Creativity Day. I think today we have large number of already colleges and institutions joining us on YouTube. We have 3,500 plus institutions which have joined. and on WebEx, we have around 300 plus people. So I really want to thank all these institutions for joining us in large number and supporting our initiative. So today I will use this opportunity to discuss with all here what we are doing as Innovation Cell and what are our achievements and what is our roadmap for future. So let's go to the presentation. Next slide, please. So we started MIC, that is MOE's Innovation Cell at AICT. And to be very honest, AICT has been our biggest supporter and champion, giving us not only a moral support, but also all the financial support and hosting us here and guiding us on every aspect. We started MIC, that is MOE's Innovation Cell, in 2018. And when we started working on it, there was hardly any talk of innovation and entrepreneurship across our technical institutions. But now, in last 7 years, we have achieved many things, and I would like to actually share with you. But the formal philosophy of what we are working here is on 4 aspects. One is how we can promote and nurture problem-solving culture within our institutions, because many of our institutions are still have a rote learning kind of a system, swallow and vomit, and chasing behind marks and grades. So we wanted to change that. We wanted to instill the problem-solving culture. Then we are very keen on building a multi-layered but yet sustainable innovation ecosystem, because we want to ensure that whether MIC is there or not in future, this innovation ecosystem, this charge which we have ignited will continue to actually become bigger and actually convert it into a movement within institutions which are sustainable. Then how we can actually convert these problem-solving attitude which we are trying to inculcate into something really tangible and creating entrepreneurship out of it, so that our educational institute emerge as fountainheads of innovation and actually help in creating wealth for the country. So that is another very important aspect of it. And then we want to create platforms where actually funding can also flow in to some of the great ideas which are coming from these educational institutes. So building a comprehensive ecosystem from mindset creation till funding of our startups. So that is what we are now working on. Next slide, please. And if you really look at the initiatives which we have built and the achievements which we have, and some of these achievements were highlighted by even Unnat Panditji, where when we started one program called as Kapila, there was, we can say that more than 90% institutions, technical as well as non-technical, when we are talking about higher educational institute, had never filed a patent ever, and majority of the patents which were getting filed were confined to some of the elite institutions. But now, if you really look at the profile of patents getting filed and even granted, we have tier 2, tier 3 institutions in large number. And because of that, 266% rise is there. And I would really like to take this opportunity to once again thank our chairman, because he is really pushing on this aspect in a very, very aggressive way. Then we are creating large number of platforms for hackathons, innovation challenges, and so on and so forth. Because what we feel is that still there is dearth of platforms. There are no enough platforms in this country where great creativity of large number of youngsters across AICT institutions and even non-technical institutions could be showcased. And because of that, we are now generated large number of ideas, around 140,000 plus ideas we have generated, and now we have a repository of these ideas at different TRL levels. Then we actually have innovation councils across 14,000 plus institutions because we believe that if you have to really do a sustained effort, then we have to handhold these institutions on monthly basis or fortnightly basis and tell them what to do and what not to do. It's a very, very homegrown model. No such model exists globally. It is our innovation in that sense. And the kind of results which we have achieved are something very, very phenomenal. Then we want to create even formal programs, formal degree programs, which are associated with entrepreneurship and innovation. So we are working very, very comprehensively. Next slide, please. And if you really look at the different programs, we have categorized them based on the stakeholder which are involved with us. And when we look at who are our stakeholders, when we ask ourselves that question, so we have 3 or 4 stakeholders. When you look at institution, the management of the institution is an important stakeholder because they are the key decision makers. They say which programs they will fund, which programs they will not fund. So we have to educate the management to give push for innovation and entrepreneurship. Then the faculty members and teachers of that institution are again another stakeholders for me, and they should be approached very differently. There has to be a lot of training and hand-holding because we need to ensure that when great idea comes, that teacher or that faculty member actually handholds it and takes it forward. And then most importantly, our young brains and our young minds, our students, to which we have to challenge them to think out of box because those are the people who are without any baggage and can think out of box. Apart from that, we are also focusing on schools. When we are talking about school, again, all these 3 stakeholders, the management, teachers, and students are there also. But we are looking at schools as a separate entity because as AICT, we mostly deal with higher educational institutes. But what we believe that the intervention has to happen at school level so that the creativity gets nurtured. And eventually when the students come into higher educational institutes, it is not very difficult for them to think really out of the box and challenge themselves. Next slide, please. And this is what Unnat Pandit was talking about. And this is the impact of our Kapila program, which is there. So, sir, if you really look at the dark blue bar, it is number of patents filed. And if you really look at the light blue bar, it is number of patents granted. So you can see that in 2018-19, 662 was the number of grant. I'm not talking about just filing, and now if you see it is something like 8,000 plus. So see the quantum jump which you can see in terms of patent granting. Filing, there is already a big thing, but I believe that the real story is the light blue bar where it's getting granted. So this is because of our intervention, and I hope Dr. Sacha will be happy to note that there is, in last 3 or 4 years, there is such a surge in patent filing and getting granted in this country. Next slide, please. And this has possibly happened, that outcome has been there because of our very, very systematic intervention. And that intervention which we are doing through our team, which Deepan and other people are actually leading, is of institution innovation councils. Now we have these councils in 15,000 plus institutions, as I was talking about. It is covering all states and all union territories of this country. But what is this council? This council is a group of individuals within an educational institute, and we guide and handhold those institutions. They are the most senior people in the institution on what kind of programs and what kind of initiatives they should conduct within their institution on monthly or fortnightly basis. And they give them a ready reckoner of the events they need to do. And if they follow those events very systematically based on our requirements, then we will ensure that innovation ecosystem gets established within their organization. And because of all our interventions, we have more than 8,800 now ideas in the startup phase. they have registered startups in these educational institutes, and many of the other ideas are at TRL 6 and above, and so about 80,000 ideas are there which are TRL below 1 to 4, we can see. So if you just look at the purple and the green one, all these ideas are really in a position which they can be taken forward as startups, and we will start seeing good results out of it. On the left side, you will see some staggering, amazing numbers about students and faculty members which are actually participating in this innovation ecosystem. This IICs now, it's there for last 6 years, 5-6 years now, and the kind of momentum which it has gained is something very, very phenomenal. And we are talking about this year's only initiative. We are not talking about the cumulative. If you look at the cumulative number, is going to be far, far bigger than what we have shown it here. Next slide, please. Another very important initiative which Unnat spoke about was a Smart India Hackathon. It is our flagship initiative. Now it has become world's biggest hackathon and open innovation model, where more than 54,000 teams participate in the second round, or what we can say the national round. Before that, there are a large number of teams, uncountable number of teams which participate at a regional or a institute level round. And during the grand finale, we have more than 10,000 students actually traveling across the country working on their ideas. That is the third round coming, So that's what we are, and we are very happy that our Honorable Prime Minister supports this initiative and has been present for all the Smart India Hackathon editions till date when we have started it from 2017. Next. And this is again the stats of Smart India Hackathon. I will not get into now due to time constraint, but just it is something very unprecedented. Nowhere in the world it happens. And for Professor Dr. Sacha's information, I would just like to inform here that India is the only country which organizes hackathon as a national initiative. Next. Then another important initiative, what we are doing is IDE boot camps, because it's good to have a good idea, but actual execution of that idea and convert that idea into a prototype, which are good and sellable, and it's very, very important. And from that aspect, trainings like design thinking, product engineering, product design, product management, material science, and those kind of aspects are very, very critical. And we are now organizing a large number of boot camps to actually train our innovators on this aspect. Till date, more than 46 boot camps have been organized across the country in different cities. And usually the winners of these hackathons are the innovators which are there in TRL 6 and above. We actually select them, and these are the participants for this boot camp. It's not a very random kind of a boot camp. The participants are very, very carefully selected, and only the deserving participants gets the opportunity to be part of this boot camp. IDE is Innovation, Design and Entrepreneurship Boot Camps. Next slide. As I said, I will stop here. I will not get into too much of details. But as I said, that we are not just confining ourselves to higher educational institutes, but we are now getting into schools also in big way. Because when we started IICs, we felt that large number of, when students come from a very rote learning kind of a mechanism, and once they get into higher educational institutes, if you ask them to innovate, suddenly they don't know how to do that. So we want to ensure that the creativity and innovation, actually that culture gets established in school itself. And that is the reason for last 2.5 years, we are now working on schools, with schools very, very closely. And I will be again very happy to share with all of you that Bharat is the only country where we have introduced design thinking at 6th standard. The books are already out from 6th standard to 12th standard. They are on CBSE website. I am very happy to share with you that more than 1,800 schools now have started actually offering design thinking as an elective right from 6th standard, and more than 120,000 students have taken it as an elective. Apart from that, we do a lot of school hackathons and school trainings and innovation ambassador training programs and so on and so forth for schools also. But I will not get into those details here because this is more of an AICT initiative and we are going to confine ourselves to what we have done in higher educational institute. So again, I will thank Honorable Chairman for giving me this opportunity and my team for helping me in preparing this presentation, putting all these numbers together so that we can show and showcase what we are doing together. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, sir. And indeed, I think innovation cell itself is a policy level and process level innovation at macro level, at national level, which started contributing to the academia and national level initiatives 8 years back. And I think innovation cell has now reached to a stage where all the academicians, institutions, they themselves are getting involved. And we saw some numbers. So thank you so much, sir, for your address and your time today. I think it's a feast for the IIC institutions, conveners, and researchers to listen to you. And there are many more occasions you are able to spare your time. So once again, thanks to Dr. Abhay Jere. With this, we move ahead to listen to Dr. Sacha Vincent, who is Head Department of Economics and Statistics Division at WIPO, and who is also handling the Global Innovation Index team at WIPO. So I request Dr. Sacha Vincent to address the gathering, please. Welcome, Dr. Sacha.
A warm welcome back. Let me first confirm that the connection is working fine.
Yes, yes.
Perfect. It is Easter Monday in Geneva, and so I'm joining you from my home, but very honored to be with you today, and I've learned a lot already. So Honorable Mr. Barmankar, Chairman of IICTE and also Vice Chairman, and of course our esteemed WIPO colleague, Professor Pandit, who's the controller. It's a real privilege for me to discuss with you today, in particular, as this is a pre-celebration of the World IP Day. I think you call it World Creativity and Innovation Day. So it's a whole week, which actually seems to be a pre-celebration, if you like, of the World IP Day. So for this, I'm here to convey the congratulations of WIPO, of the United Nations, to India, but also to AICT in particular. We've already heard just now some of the magnificent examples of work, the hackathons and the various sort of grassroots level, student level, university level initiatives which are taking hold in India. And I must truly say, and I'll develop this a little bit in my speech, how unique this contribution is that you're doing, and the optimism, if you like, or the promise that you send to not only India, but to the world in doing what you're doing. So I will, in my little talk here, go a little bit broader than intellectual property, because, as you say, I am mostly known in India for the Global Innovation Index and not for intellectual property merely. So I will try to sketch a few thoughts on the Indian innovation ecosystem, then lead over to intellectual property in more detail, if that's okay with you. So let me first start to review the massive achievements of India in the most recent years. So the ascent of the Global Innovation Index 2024 is quite remarkable. If you look over a 9-year period, more or less, we're looking at an increase from rank 81 in 2015 to rank 39. And also it's one of those few countries that for, I think, more than 10 years now has outperformed expectations relative to its income level, meaning that for the per capita development level of India, the innovation inputs and outputs generated far surpass what is expected. And of course, India is a lower middle income economy still, with big plans to become a high income economy, obviously, but still in our list of middle income economies that have risen very consistently through time, the majority are higher middle income economies. More recently in the GII, we've also tried to identify the top science and technology clusters worldwide. The vast majority of emerging economies, but even high middle income economies, have barely one or two clusters. But India from the very start had already four, with Bengaluru, Delhi, Chennai, and Mumbai being in those top 100 for a very considerable time. We started this ranking in 2016. Now, I've tried to think a little bit about what is so special about India, having studied innovation ecosystems broadly in emerging economies, but also high-income economies for roughly 3 decades by now. First OECD, World Bank, and now at WIPO. And I think, and my predecessors have underlined this, I think it can't be stressed enough the unique development path that India has been taken. And I've tried to put a name on this, and I've suggested unique bottom-up innovation model. So it's quite unique how, unlike many more advanced developing economies, India has relied on this very bottom-up, education-led and people-driven innovation ecosystem. Even the performance of some of the most innovative companies, like Tata, Infosys, Sun Pharmaceuticals, etc., that you all know better than I do, are, unlike many other Asian innovation models, really organically grown, strong, innovative businesses. So while the government certainly has supported those innovative companies in rising, it's fair to say that it's really a very organic and innovation ecosystem which isn't really very centralized or orchestrated from the top. Certainly supported. I don't want to diminish the role, the strong role, in particular in the last 8 years of Indian policy. But I think it's quite remarkable that we're talking about an organically grown bottom-up innovation system. And I believe that this bodes extremely well for the future. So in that sense, when you compare to other emerging economies, it's actually one of the most exciting and scalable in the world. Also simply because it leverages this huge, massive growing pool of skilled talent, this huge new culture of tinkering, problem solving, and grassroots innovation. And also those new government-backed initiatives that support both high-tech and grassroots innovation. You see, I'm French-German, and if you think about, on a personal level, to compare the Indian innovation ecosystem to the German one, for instance, there's two really important things that stand out. One is just in terms of skills levels, even though we're going through some of a economic crisis again most recently, finding talent on the German labor market in the areas of IT in particular, but also engineering, is extremely difficult. So as Prime Minister Modi in a recent podcast announced, right, so you could probably fill whole soccer stadiums of skilled Indian engineers and software programmers if you were to advertise a job. And this is strictly unheard of or totally not the case in most high-income economies, including the United States of Europe. So this massive pool of skilled talent is something that is unimaginable for most developing economies, in particular if it can be kept in India, obviously. And the second thing, which is quite personal to me too, is that when I look at my own children who are in relatively decent schools in Europe, and also hearing about children of colleagues in the United States, etc., I think this whole dimension of tinkering is relatively unheard of in many developed economies. And in fact, that notions of intellectual property, be it copyright or actually patenting, are ingrained in youth from the very start at a massive scale, right? I'm not talking about individual anecdotal examples, but at such massive scales as I've seen now in India with Atal, but also the initiatives that my colleague just mentioned before me. It's just strictly unheard of. So I'm quite while I'm very optimistic for India on this front, I'm quite concerned also with how education systems have embraced the IP notions and also tinkering notions in advanced economies. And so that is just a few things that I wanted to share with you. Now, very humbly, there are a few issues that I mentioned also 3 weeks ago in Gujarat when we met under the invitation of Niti Aayog to meet with different Indian states to discuss how to move things forward. One consistent challenge that I've underlined is the importance to continue increasing R&D spending, not only in the public sector, but also in the private sector. So meaning the general shares of R&D spending to GDP ratios are, for our taste, if you like, in international comparison, still a tad too low. So that was one important suggestion that we made. The second was about opening the Indian tertiary education systems a tad more to international influence, inbound and outbound flows. So foreign students being admitted to the IITs and also generally Indian innovation ecosystems, and also for faculty to increase a tad more international collaboration and sharing. The last points I made, which are already being fixed at this very moment, related to innovation finance. So we've seen very incipient and strongly growing venture capital inflows into India over the last 5 years, which are privately steered and also extremely interesting initiatives, government-backed initiatives in a few key deep tech fields, in particular space and AI, quantum, which have positively injected VC capital into India. But I think it's a generally shared concern that in terms of late stage venture capital injections, we still have to do a tad more. Now, let me conclude on IP, intellectual property, because after all, I represent the World Intellectual Property Organization, and this is on the occasion of World IP and Creativity Day. So I echo the sentiments of Professor Pandit, and it's there's no way to stress enough the huge contributions of all Indian institutions, but in particular the Indian Patent and Trademark and Copyright Office, the controller, in boosting intellectual property filings in India. And again, I may make a parallel to the Indian innovation ecosystem more broadly. I truly believe that we're looking at a organically grown intellectual property system, one that maybe has taken a little bit more time to blossom, but which now is so deeply ingrained in students at the very youngest ages that one can only be very hopeful for the future and how this blossoming is really taking speed. I will not duplicate my predecessors in enumerating all sorts of patent statistics and intellectual property filing statistics. It is true that India is now very recently among the top 10 offices worldwide in terms of growth, but also levels in terms of PCT filings. And I could go on and on in terms of the massive expansion of intellectual property in India. And this is, means a lot to us because now the intellectual property system is firmly ingrained and fully embraced. And it's quite organic and distributed forms of intellectual property use, which I can only be encouraged about. I mentioned this example of Indian use already, being quite cognizant and aware at scales, numbers of students and university students, but also, as I have seen for myself, primary and secondary students at scales which are hard really to imagine for us, and the potential of IP, intellectual property, is yet to be fully unleashed, if I'm honest with you. So to conclude, so for us, the Indian innovation model, but also in particular the IP model, is quite unique, powerful, resilient, and its organic nature bodes extremely well for the future, because now everything is actually planted like little seeds, and not only in one particular zone, in one particular city, in one particular government designated space, but seeded across a massive country indeed. And so that bodes for extreme optimism to us. In that sense, India is not just participating in the global innovation landscape, and I'm not saying this to be nice. Of course, I try to be nice also, but I really mean it. That India in that way is also really redefining the global innovation landscape, and also sending or being a true model for other emerging developing economies that want to follow suit. So at WIPO, and this is my last point, we stand ready to support India in scaling up this unique innovation-driven growth model and ensuring that India's innovation success is felt across the world, right? So the real goal is that we consumers in other places of the world benefit, right? From as patients, as consumers, as car drivers, as space users, that we actually benefit from this vast potential that you now bring to the table. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity and pass the floor back to you. Thank you.